I muted my mic. I guess we'll just jump into the thing. Yeah, you can definitely hear us. Cool. All right, it's awesome. Well, it's literally just the Discord window now. I've got everybody's name. Yep, everybody's name is probably not quite in the right position, but you know.
All right, well, welcome to the Seat of the Pants Geeks with Kids bi-weekly parenting point of view podcast. Wow, that's probably the best I've ever done it.
That's
completely
good,
backwards. I am Steve, and this week our special agents are David, Hawk, and Marcus. How are you, gentlemen?
We're good. We're fantastic.
Nice. So, as you can see, we are without our esteemed host Eric, but we're going to try to muddle through regardless. And I guess what's the tradition? I guess I'm supposed to ask, what is your favorite thing this week? That's what we call it, right? Hawk, what's your favorite thing?
What's your yum?
Oh, damn it!
Yeah.
Darn it. What is my
I wasn't even here.
Nothing in particular. I am happy Rick and Morty's back. I haven't talked about that in a while.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Enjoyed the first 4 episodes, and then haven't seen the new one yet. So that'll be my yum for this week.
That's
more Rick and Morty.
What season is that? It's the 5th season now, or
this is season 5.
Wow.
They seem to be on like a track now. You know. I mean, there was like the difference of like 2 years between 3 and 4.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I was a little worried about that because I don't know. I guess I'm 3 seasons behind at this point, but yeah, like I knew that there was that gap because there was a little bit of that behind the scenes wrangling, and I was always kind of like, oh, I wonder if this is actually going to hurt them. Once they come up with dump trucks full of money, it's like, is this going to be the freedom that they want, or is it going to be the laziness that they want, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Or like with all that money comes like a lot of red tape suddenly, and they're like, oh, you can't be as funny as you were, you can't say the shit you did, or you can't go where you did, like that kind of stuff. But
yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think Dan Harmon, one of the co-creators, now owns the company that makes, like, he created an animation studio, and they make Rick and... So I think it just goes like from the executives at Cartoon Network straight to Dan and Justin. And that's it. Like he wants as little oversight as possible. I'm sure,
Oh, that's pretty good.
Nice. No, that's ideal. Yeah, for sure. So Marcus, what's your favorite thing?
My favorite thing, honestly, I got these today. These Twizzlers gummies.
Oh, no.
Okay, that's the.
Our needs are so low this week.
It's a good thing.
Larry, I'm on DuckTales. Like
Twizzlers, if you want to get in on this action and sponsor us, we wouldn't be mad.
So Twizzlers, gummies.
Is this not the face of the spokesperson you want?
Right.
But these are absolutely delicious. But aside from that, just been really enjoying Loki's episodes, and the Bad Batch still going pretty good.
Nice.
If you haven't seen like the newest episode, they kind of take like a backseat to the actual Bad Batch group, and they kind of bring in a little bit of backstory to Star Wars Rebels, which I thought was pretty cool. So all in all, it's that world building that they're doing, and I really love it. Like that's what makes the show interesting to me in the end, which is pretty cool. And I'm also pretty pumped about. There's been a lot of screenshots from the Black Adam movie with Dwayne Johnson.
Oh, nice.
And I can't say it enough. That guy is he seems to be the coolest and like most humble of like the mega stars kind of thing, he's huge, he's everywhere, he's in demand so much that I don't think he actually can keep track of what movie of his is coming out at what time. But he still takes the time to thank his fans and say hi to his mom and send these like lovely messages out, all the while getting gigantically jacked and huge and just doing incredible things.
Crazy.
But like I think it's gonna be the first time that a superhero movie character is played by somebody who I feel actually at this point is a good enough actor to be playing the part and just looks physically perfect, like almost more comic accurate than anybody ever has been. Like it just looks incredible. So I'm really excited for that movie, for that iteration of that character.
Nice,
so
nice.
That's pretty cool.
When I heard that he was involved with Shazam, I was like, wow, that's actually going to be something if they can pull it off. And with all the projects being shut down or restarted, I was kind of like, oh no, what's going to happen? They did such a good job with that first Shazam. Like
Yeah, yeah.
they didn't rush it. Because obviously you'd expect The Rock to be right in the first one, but they had the presence of mind, right, to set it up
Yeah.
properly.
Oh yeah.
And
which is
so
nice.
that's great. I didn't know that was actually going on. I'm so out of the loop. So that's
Mhm.
that's great that there's
I
actually
believe
screenshots.
yeah, I believe they just finished filming, or like they're in their last week of filming or something like that.
Awesome.
So like filming itself, I believe, is wrapped or is going to wrap, and then they're on for their post stuff, and then that'll be it. Which is
I
pretty cool.
remember when The Rock started breaking out into movies, and I was like, this guy,
Yep.
man, I didn't really watch him in wrestling. Like, I knew of him, right? But I'm like, yeah, this guy, he's the definition of like charisma, And it was like I was actually kind of shocked he wasn't in more movies because he wasn't a lot, but they were all kind of like weird roles, like
They were his
Scorpion
first
King
few.
and
Scorpion King
yeah,
was bad, and Walking Tall was kind of like no.
yeah.
There's a bunch of his first few movies. Like I remember, I actually joked about it. I'm like, who is this guy? He's a wrestler trying to be an actor. This is gonna be terrible. And like physically, he looked fine doing the roles he did, but like he just never seemed like he had the chops. And then I don't even remember what movie turned it around, but at some point I just stopped saying it, and I was just like, damn, Dwayne Johnson's good. Also, once you start,
I know the
oh,
movie.
which one?
I know the movie that turned
which
it
one?
around for me. Michael Bay did the one and only movie of his that I really, really enjoyed recently, and that was called what was it, Pain and Glory? I think it was the one he did with
Right.
Mark
Pain,
Wahlberg.
pain and gain. Pain and gain.
Pain and Gain.
Pain and Gain.
That was the story of those the guys who got into the drug thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
they were like
steroid.
personal trainers and that.
That was a
they,
great movie. Oh, that was actually a really
That
good one.
really was his performance in that. Really, I was like, wow.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's rare because like it was the perfect role for him in that, given like his physical stature and the nature of the story and that. But there was something about him in that he really turned around. He turned in a really brilliant comic performance.
You know what?
Darkly comic performance.
For me, what I think I saw from him was his first few movies were pretty bad. They put him in these action movies, and like the scripts were rushed, or like the projects
Tooth
weren't like
Fairy
really
or something like.
Okay, well, once he started
Yeah.
getting into those things, those Tooth Fairy
It's
and like
a
the
please
kids
excuse.
things, I was like, okay. I even said it to to people. I'm like, this is where he belongs. He belongs in like the weird little kid genre things. But I think those little kid genre movies actually gave him the little bit of training and the little bit of like things where he was like, oh man, that looks terrible. I should do this better. Oh, that looks terrible. I should do this better. I feel like he honed his craft secretly and quietly amongst children's movies, and then suddenly came out for something like Pain and Gain, and then just became amazing, blew us all away. And then we said, and that was around that time that people stopped calling him The Rock, and were just
Yes, that's
straight
true.
up calling him Dwayne Johnson.
That's true.
And
That's true.
now, like, he is just all of the above and everything else you can imagine. Like, I want to call him the Boulder, not the Rock. He's just massive, that guy.
Nice. Yeah, like I think he's finally getting roles that he ought to have. I still think he could hit some. Like I still think people are still treating him a little bit not to the degree that he should be. But at least he's getting some recognition. And yeah, I hope this Black Adam thing like really works out for him. Because it's something he really wants, that he's really driving. So yeah. David, what is your favorite of the week?
I got my second Moderna dose, so I'm going with that.
Yeah.
Like I've been in bed just the last 2 days being like, if I just lay in bed but don't feel sick and just try and sleep, then I'll trick my body into not making me feel like shit. So after like 2 or 3 days, I'll just feel normal.
How are you feeling today?
I'm just very tired. Because I've done nothing but sleep for 2 days. Like since it's Monday night, I basically have laid in bed from Saturday evening when I ran D&D, and then I've just been in bed since then, or sitting here watching movies. That's all I've done.
My arm was sore for days afterwards. I don't know. I guess
got
I was like 1 day.
Look at it. It's still red, and it's kind of hard.
Oh
yeah.
I got grayscale from it. Maybe I don't know.
Well, I got David. What day did you have it? What time?
Saturday at like 12:45 ish.
Because I got
Really
mine
recent.
on Thursday. I got mine Thursday evening, and then all of Friday I was just like, well, Friday morning I was like, okay, I'm okay, just a little bit sore. And then by Friday evening, my head was spinning, and I was just like, I'm out. I can't do anything.
Wow.
But then Saturday, right around afternoon, I was perfectly fine. Still tender, still
Yeah,
sore. And
yeah.
then come Sunday, I was perfect. No problem at all.
Yeah, I was just, my goal was like, if I just rest for 2 days, my body will just do its thing, and then I can probably just hopefully avoid, because my stepdad, he got AstraZeneca first and then Moderna, and Moderna just kicked the shit out of him. Like, he just felt like shit for like 5-6 days.
Wow. It's good that you planned for it.
Well, it was the weekend too, right? Like, what am I going to do? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have it as bad as you guys. Yeah, I had one day where I just I just slept, and that's actually not all that different from my day-to-day existence. But yeah, my arm, the whole arm felt off. And so I was like, oh, is this the beginning? Am I going to is it going to glow or something cool, and then just went away, and I was like, damn, I could have been a better Iron Fist.
I mean, if these crazy people were right and these mRNA vaccines did change our DNA, like, that would mean we could start getting some superpowers. I'm all about it. Yeah, inject me and give me, let me fly or be invincible or regenerate quickly, whatever. Like, yeah, what's the problem with that?
The worst origin story.
I will be happy enough if I don't die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good superpower too.
Yeah. So for the next,
awesome.
So I still won't go out for 2 weeks, and then after 2 weeks, I'll still wear a mask. And that's, because I don't trust other human beings.
Masks are going away anytime soon, so just everybody keep wearing your mask.
I mean, we're now on the there's another new variant that they're worried about, right? So that just cropped up, and they're like, cool. We're up to like Lambda or something, or Epsilon. Yeah. Like, Lambda's awesome.
Recent.
Awesome, and we know Delta's very dangerous because fully vaccinated people are getting sick. So we're still going to have to wear masks. And like people who are yeah, I mean, they're going to get through the whole Greek alphabet at this point, right? We're going to have to work on something else.
We'll see what happens when they start switching to like fake languages. Then we're going to be in trouble.
We're going to get to like Akkadian at some point. We're going to keep going backwards till we Phoenician. Let's go.
So, once we get to Cyrillic, then we're in trouble.
Oh no.
Getting us back on track here. So, I didn't actually have any news prepared. Is there anything that's coming up in the news that anybody wants to like have a little?
There was the PlayStation. I think we kind of missed the whole PlayStation State of Play, but there really wasn't a lot in there. I remember watching some video, like we didn't get anything about Ragnarok, or which I would say God of War Ragnarok.
God of War, yeah.
Nothing new for Horizon. Like they already kind of showed everything they were going to show for that. There's no hardware stuff to speak of. Not even any news on PlayStation VR.
It's gonna be a slow like return
honestly
to video game normalcy.
Yeah,
I'm totally fine with like PlayStation and stuff taking their time if that means they're like working on that stuff that's actually going to turn out to be good. If they rush through shit just to kind of do announcements and everything turns out to be crap, I'd be pissed off more that way.
I mean, it's incredible that we got like The Last of Us 2 to basically launch with a console. Like that sells consoles, right? That kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So, and God of War Ragnarok's probably going to be the next, how every time there's like, oh, Uncharted 3, like you gotta buy a PS3, and then when Uncharted 4, like, oh, now you gotta buy a PS4. God of War, oh, you gotta buy Horizon, you gotta buy like these are the games to buy it for. So we usually get like one a year, right? Like there's one game a year where it's like that's a good enough reason to buy a whole $700 console right there. There's one thing coming out. Oh, go ahead, Hawk. Sorry.
Go ahead, Hawk.
Sorry. They have a huge problem right now. Is that they have these like AAA titles that are coming out, but they don't have any hardware in that for them to be played.
Yeah.
It's the fastest selling PlayStation. Actually, the fastest selling console, if I'm not mistaken. Period. Somehow, despite not having stock. So even though
there's a little FOMO going on, right? Like people are like, "Oh, it's so rare," so that drives it even more, right?
I think they basically every console gets sold out. But that doesn't mean people are playing them because how many are sitting in warehouses owned by resellers, right?
Right. Yeah.
The feel-good story of the pandemic. Like 13-year-old boy resells consoles and makes a fortune because his parents, you mean his rich parents, bought 100 PS4s or PS5s and he got to sell them? Wow, another feel-good story about a rich kid getting richer.
Capitalism. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Capitalism in the time of pandemic.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. Well, I guess we'll get to our movies. I didn't really have any favored things this week. I think the best thing that I did this week was actually make it through all these movies, because like I gave myself too many films to watch, and I actually sat down and watched them all. I even watched an extra one, and I'm like, oh man,
Did I watch more than you? Because the only one I didn't watch was Hannah, and I've seen it before, and the only one I didn't finish was Columbiana, which I've also seen before.
I think the extra one that you watched was Ava, and I did watch that one last night. So I think
Ava's pretty good, eh?
I did end up watching.
It's not bad.
Now Ava, though, I don't know. Well, we'll see whether we talk about it.
It doesn't really. It doesn't fit quite the same the way you were hoping.
Though.
But I don't think any of these movies fit the pattern we were hoping for anyway. Because I will get to Black Widow at the end.
No. I think there are some. We'll see.
Okay.
I will say just about Ava. We'll just start with that real quick, because only the two of us watched it. I will say I'm not a big fan of Jessica Chastain. I don't know why. I haven't seen that many movies.
I really like her. We're kind of opposites.
I thought she was really good though in this movie. So I will say that, like, as a person who's not keen on it, in fact, I'd say like the characterization and the drama of the character was really well done, and her acting was excellent. I think the only weak point was who's the actor who played the X?
Common.
Yeah, Common. His scene with her almost ruined the movie for me, because it was just so bad. Like, his acting was so horrendous that it actually dropped hers. That's the only scene I didn't like in the entire movie.
I find Common, like, he's in a lot of these like action movies.
He was in John Wick too.
And stuff like John Wick. Yeah, like he's one of those,
John Wick.
But the problem is he's good at these characters where he doesn't speak much. He's great because he's got such an intense look. Like, he looks terrifying from across the room. You have to avoid that guy, or like he's going to kill you. Like, there's something about his look that is just so intense, and the way he stares.
That's the funny thing is that's not his role in this movie. He's like kind of a weenie.
But that's what I mean. Like, if you're not putting that man in the zone that makes him fantastic, you're set up to fail. Like, you're setting him up to fail. And I just feel like,
Exactly. No. The acting, like the choice of actors for Ava was really strong, except for him. Everybody who was there, like who's a veteran actor, like really added to the film and uplifted Chastain's character's arc. Because I was like surprised by like how meaningful her story arc was. But yeah, just not to bag on that guy, but I just thought that actually kind of hurt the film. But anyway, Ava. So why are we here this week? We're here this week because I'm always come up with dumb movie lists. It's just the way my brain works. I like to pose questions and then use that as an excuse to watch a whole bunch of movies. And because Black Widow was coming out, it's like, where have we been to get to Black Widow? Like, what were the movies that came out before that led to where we are now? And I was like, you know what? This is... Maybe there's like a female empowerment or a female agency, kind of element. And I was like, well, where would that begin? And so decided to go all the way back to 1990, La Femme Nikita, and create the Nikita to Natasha playlist. Now, hindsight, I think I probably should have focused more on the Russian agent movies, so we're going to get to those. But it ended up kind of becoming a Luc Besson kind of...
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about those 4 movies that we decided as a group to actually watch because, it was Nikita that kind of started the ball rolling, at least for this discussion. And I was just sort of curious whether or not Natasha Romanoff would end up having any connection at all. Because I had no idea what Black Widow was going to be about. I was trying to keep it as spoiler-free as possible. And so, luckily...
Someone's getting a phone call.
We're being called. The agency,
Caller, you're on the air.
The agency.
So, yeah, I wasn't sure whether or not it would have anything to do with it. And I think, actually, maybe I was right, at least on some level. So,
you kind
of were.
I kind of assumed there would be some elements of that type of storyline. So let's just start with La Femme Nikita. What's everybody's history with this movie?
I'd never seen it.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
Years ago, and this was like the 90s when I was kind of on the art. I think I was a little kind of like you, Steven, on the art snob kind of context. everything changed
Right.
after I saw Reservoir Dogs and all this, sudden like
Yeah,
Hollywood
yeah.
movies. Like, no, please, no, I need something like independent and then gritty and that. And surprisingly, I think like France had a bit of a second coming in the new wave like film in the '90s and that, because a lot of directors, kind of seem to push their way out into even from beyond Europe into Hollywood and that, and I think Luc Besson was probably really he was at the forefront of
I
that,
think so too.
with Nikita. Um, I saw this years ago. I remember I really enjoyed it, and that I never got around to seeing Point No Return because it was like at that point, no, I wouldn't have seen it then, because they're just bastardizing it and that. But I remember loving it at the time.
Apparently, we can't hear you, Hawk.
Oh,
I mean, I can hear Hawk, so that means the stream should be able to hear Hawk because it's my audio playing.
Well,
okay.
Once let me check the.
Right, we're gonna deal with those technical difficulties for a moment. I'll just say to go off of what Hawk was saying. I had written some notes in between the episode and before this episode, and yeah, I was definitely at a place in time when I was feeling a bit of an elitist and thinking, yes, French cinema. I mean, Hollywood has nothing to offer me. This was my university days, and so I obviously thought that anything like from France has got to be superior. But the truth is, I didn't really remember the movie. And so when this project came up that I created for myself, I was like, wow, I know it's a significant film, but I wonder how it holds up. And I went back and I was surprised at how well shot the movie is. But it's interesting to me. Like I'll get to that in a minute when we've all talked about it. But I'd completely forgotten almost all of it. I mean, there's like one or two key scenes, but I found it really interesting that somehow I did not remember the film at all. So Marcus, what was your experience with this film?
So I remember it was actually similar. I think I was in college or maybe late high school, but I think it was college or so. And I watched what do you call it? The Professional, the Lyon. So I watched that and loved it because like I just thought it was an amazing movie. And so my buddy Todd, who me and him watched a lot of movies together and stuff like that, he was the one that was just like, oh, you should also check out this one, Nikita. You got to check this out. So I watched it, but because I had watched Professional before, that's where my allegiance kind of lied. So I watched that first. That was my favorite movie. Nikita was good, but it felt a little bit wonkier to me because it was the first time I watched it, and like I had just watched Professional, which had come, I believe, after Nikita was actually filmed. So, it's like anything where you see a director's newer movie or like whatever, and you're like, okay, well, he's got some good stuff here, and then you go backwards and you're just like, oh, that doesn't seem as good. Well, it's because they were learning earlier and not getting that kind of thing. But it was still a great movie. I remember just kind of being enthralled in like because again, I was never one for foreign cinema or anything. Like I pretty much liked my North American style movies, and I was just kind of there at that time in my life. And I don't know, it was like, I think it was like just a few of these movies that were just like the French world kind of pulled me in, and I was just like, oh, this is kind of cool. And you know what? I'm kind of digging subtitles right now. This is kind of cool. Like it was the first time I kind of started to enjoy that sort of thing, and it was awesome.
Hawk, do you want to? I mean, David.
Yeah, Hawk, try talking right now.
Hey.
It's coming. I see it. I see it in OBS.
Yeah.
I can't.
Too quiet, or
I can't make him any louder. I mean, I can just jump. I can just. Try talking now, Hawk.
Hey.
He's just very quiet. That's all.
He's in carrots. I mean, okay. Well, I guess I'll bring Hawk back into it. I think that you made a good point about Nikita, in that one thing that's interesting about Luc Besson, which is going to come up, I think, more as we go through, is I don't know that much about him, to be honest. Like, I saw him in university as like this, like, oh wow, this great auteur from overseas, that everyone is like watching because it's like really hot for some reason. But I didn't really understand it, and I have to probably do a deep dive myself at this point. But he is considered by some to be the best Hollywood style French director. So it's kind of interesting because I think that in some ways he was approximating something of Hollywood in his film. So it's not true French, movie making in that respect. And this is something where like I just don't know enough about Besson or French cinema to really say. But it's something that I came across as I started to do some research. Okay, so it seems like we're still having some minor.
I don't know. Hawk should be fine now. He should be able to.
Right. Well, we'll see how many comments we have. We've got a goddamn it Hawk from Erica. Thanks Eric. We always need one of those. I don't understand though. I can hear him totally fine. So, anyway, David. So did you get to check out Nikita?
I watched everything.
Right.
I liked Nikita actually. I hadn't seen it before. I've been watching Luc Besson films since I was like 8 or 9 probably, which is probably way too early to be watching them.
Yes.
But like Nikita came out when I was 2. for reference.
University going like, French
but when I was, that's the thing though. Like I really got into like specifically Luc Besson because The Transporter came out when I was like 13 or 14. And he wrote that. He didn't direct those, Louis Leterrier. But from that, it was just like, oh, this guy's done like others. Okay, so then I went back. I watched Leon the Professional. I was also like, I had friends who were older, like that kind of those kind of movies. Like The Fifth Element came out. What 2095? 95. Okay, so I was 7. But that was such a huge hit that eventually I saw it. So I just went back and watched a bunch of his stuff. Like I own Wasabi on DVD. I found that movie at Blockbuster, and I was like, "This is really good." Like, because I really got into like Jean Reno films because of Mission Impossible and Leon and stuff like that. But I'd never gone back to like old Luc Besson stuff because I think he kind of had a lot by that point. So I'd never seen it, and I watched these movies backwards. So I finished with La Femme Nikita, and it's good. Like I think it holds up really well. French cinema, I feel like it was way ahead of American cinema in terms of cinematography.
Sure. Yes.
Because some of the other movies, like this movie doesn't suffer from like the 90s-itis as much as like Point of No Return does.
Oh my God, that was so 90s.
Yeah, it's a very but the Femme Nikita's got like it's got a little bit of it, but it's very much a Luc Besson film. But it definitely had like you could really feel the emotion of this movie. Compared to, I mean, it's so easy to compare to Point of No Return because Point of No Return is literally an American adaptation of La Femme Nikita and is kind of inferior in like every way.
Yeah, we'll get to that one.
But yeah, just like I thought the action was good, for the budget they had, for how new everybody was in this film. It was good. And I thought it told a much better story than some of the things that came after it. Or at least I should say it maybe it told the same story, but it told it better. Like,
but it told it first.
Well, that's the weird thing is that like, I mean, we'll get to it, but like, I think Anna is actually the best version of all those movies. And I've read, people like, blah, blah, blah. No. This one's the best. I'm like, no. Anna's like, made in 2019. It should be the best version of all these movies, but a lot of people still look at La Femme Nikita as being the best. I mean, it also spawned, obviously this movie spawned a Chinese adaptation, an American adaptation, and 2 TV shows, and then like 4 movies that basically replicate it.
Yeah.
All by the same guy, basically, but...
and this whole strand that I was trying to knit together in my brain, Actually, on that note, I should clarify, because we've all discussed it, but I wasn't absolutely clear. So my whole theory was that I wanted to create a list where we have movies that involve a female lead who's initially a victim or has no belief or awareness of self. She is taken in by someone or some organization, trained to become a tool, a total objectification, but basically a weapon. But however, ultimately breaks from the role that her handlers made for her, usually turning the tables and ascending to full agency. So that was sort of my more succinct thesis of all these movies. And I think that, La Femme Nikita, I will say, is interesting watching it from today's frame of mind, because I do feel that it was a different time. And I have to admit that she is still very much an object in the film. Like you have a much better sense of her being a person struggling within the framework that she's forced into, but there's still a little bit of a gap. Like I wish we had, a woman's opinion on this, because I very much feel like a male sort of perspective watching this movie. But I do remember at the time thinking very little of it back in the 90s. I was like, yeah, no, that's the way to tell a story like that. It's refreshing. But now I don't know. And I will say it is a movie that holds up because the style, like that's right away out of the gate, the music and the way it's shot. I was like, wow, yeah, this is sharp, But I think the one thing that I noticed about the movie, and I think the reason I didn't remember it, and why I think some people might have trouble remembering it, is there's a lot of internal stuff going on. Now, I don't know if that's like French cinema or just the way Besson did that film, but there's a lot of stuff that's unsaid, right? Like with like sort of these people who, these men who are into her, but it's not explicit, right? And there's a lot of like, and I really like that. Like I really appreciated, like that was sort of refreshing, like that was a big break, from regular movies in Hollywood. So, I mean, honestly, I think it actually does hold up. I mean, it's a little bit of a time capsule. I don't know. Do we want to give spoilers? And I don't know if we want to
for these films. Yes, these films are old as shit.
Okay.
Anything that's been around this long.
Yeah, and like I wouldn't even worry about like Anna and stuff because they all follow the same arc.
Yeah.
Right.
So I made a funny checklist because Nikita sort of set this pattern, and I was like trying to justify this whole list. So here's the checklist. Woman taken and erased from society, given a second chance, 3-year program of training. She does jump through a small gap, the laundry chute. Boyfriend knows nothing. This is going to become more common. However, he lives, which is not always the case. And as to what happens to her, we don't really know, which I think is an interesting point because that's not the case in all the other movies we're going to be seeing. She sort of disappears, and in a way, because the movie is very male centric, I think that is justifiable because the whole movie really is kind of from the guy's perspective, and I think her leaving and just sort of disappearing is. No, it's the right way to handle that story because when we get to the next movie, we'll find that I thought that was more effective, because she's taken control of her life on her terms, and it's none of our business, I don't know. That's my interpretation of it anyway. What do you guys think, Marcus?
Well, I think you kind of you got it right, and you touched on some awesome stuff there. I think this is a good example of like, I feel like this is like David was saying, Anna should be the better of these styles of movies because they're all kind of the same and everything. And in some ways, it is like some of the filming might be better, or some of the the effects will be better. Obviously, that kind of thing. They have a bigger budget, or maybe they didn't. I don't even know.
Fight choreography, stunts.
Fight choreography, just that kind of stuff. But I mean, for a product of its time and for the time period it's representing, like that's kind of where I see why Nikita holds up better, because like when you have a movie where technology of the time itself would have been limited, it just makes everything more effective. Like it's more interesting when you see somebody solve a crime without a smartphone, and then you see like the same movie get remade, but they have smartphones, they have technology, and they have computers and stuff like that. Like if you take it back to a different time, it seems more impressive, and that's why this movie seems a little bit more impressive to me too. Like it just, because of its timeline, it's their technology and tech within the movie is very limited compared to what we would have these days and what you would feel comfortable with these days. So everything seems a little bit more impressive and more interesting. One thing that I know you touched on your checklist, and it's going to come up with all these other movies, it is the thing that I gripe with the most in these movies, is the amount of time training, or like their background training.
Yeah.
Like, because we run the gambit throughout these different movies and stuff like that. Like if I feel like anybody could become a lethal assassin or a fighter, I feel like, with training, but I don't think it happens quickly. I don't think it takes a fucking year, Anna. But like, I feel like Columbiana, That was not my
She had a
favorite
whole
of all
life
the
in it.
movies.
But she's
She had, like,
raised in that.
she's
She had 10
raised to
years.
do it.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, okay, you should be proficient. You should be somebody who can fuck shit up properly. You know, give somebody 3, 4, or 5 years. I'm like, yeah, you could probably become pretty deadly in that time frame. So I'm gonna be a little bit more wary. But if I have something like a year goes by, or like a month, or something stupid, I'm like, no, I can't buy this anymore.
We do
Yeah, I
get
made that note.
we do get like a 3-year kind of like, I think.
Nikita has 3 years.
Yeah, Nikita does a really good
Nikita's
job
3
of like
years.
establishing times.
Plus
But if I
her
re- but
skill
if I
set
re-
isn't as crazy as other people's either, you know.
And
like,
she's
you
still
learn how to use a
very like
computer.
Anna's like fearless. And
Yeah.
in Nikita, like every time she has to do anything, she's scared shitless because she doesn't
seems
want to
real.
do this
Like,
shit.
It's why I also liked. I mean, going really weird off topic, but like when they started remaking the Bond films, with what's his
Craig.
name? Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
Casino Royale was my favorite because like you saw him getting his ass handed to him. He was getting beaten down. He was bloodied. He was not a perfect spy. And that's kind of why I liked it. I don't like watching a James Bond with Pierce Brosnan where he is just perfectly tailored the entire fucking time. Guy doesn't get a scratch on him.
GoldenEye is the best Bond movie. Prove me wrong.
Okay, this is a topic for another time.
This is another thing.
That is something to do, though, I think, with era, though. I do think that there was a time when we just wanted to see like pros like just kicking ass, and I think that I think our tastes have changed. I definitely do
For sure.
appreciate Nikita for that because we never really seen that at the time. We wanted like really proficient heroes, you know, and this is like a really messy movie by that perspective. Like David said. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but it is messy and it's rough to watch, and you're just like, oh man, she's not going to make it out of this. But she does. She pulls through, and like when she does it, you can almost sense that confidence rising. You can almost sense that like, oh, she's more dangerous now. Every time she survives an encounter, she's more dangerous. She's more skilled. And I just kind of like seeing that development happening in front of me, so that when she does disappear at the end, I can be like, oh shit, oh fuck, like who knows what's gonna happen? Anybody could be the next target. Like, I just like that.
Yeah, Hawk, what did you have any thoughts on it?
Given the, in the aspect of the training and that, maybe a year is pushing it a little in that, but at the same time, the character of Nikita herself was, was a crazy, violent individual in that. Right off the bat, we see her, she murdered a cop for no reason, right?
Well, she's drug addled.
In courtroom. And
now Hawk is too loud. All right, I'm going to turn Hawk down a little bit. Okay.
There's a natural proclivity towards
she's a mess.
This girl, and I could see somebody only needing a certain amount of time to take her and kind of make her, train her and focus her in that. So that part of it, I give a pass. And again, at this time, you never saw like a female character like this, right?
No, I think
even given the sloppiness of some reality in that, it was nice to see a woman who could like fight and punch, her way out of any situation.
It's
like,
something.
I think Nikita did it well. Like I feel Nikita did it well. I feel like because I'm pretty sure if I'm remembering correctly, Anna, it only goes by a year with her training.
Actually, I think
or something.
She trained for a year, but I think she's supposed to serve for 5, right? And she was supposed
to serve for 5, but like they kind of skip over. Like,
or that was the one thing I wanted to go back and check to see whether she'd actually done 5 years by that point, because they jump around a lot, and I know she trained for 1, but I don't know if she'd actually served for 5. That was the thing I wasn't on. Anyway, she doesn't have the worst training. We'll get to that. Anyway, David, did you have any other final thoughts on Nikita?
I think we'd seen a lot of proficient female heroines by this time, right? Like we'd had Aliens. I'm sure I could name more if I could think about them. But all these are rattling around in my mind. It's something that you see sometimes that like we don't want to see just hyper competent women right? Because representation matters for it's not just like, okay, we need the best of the best. We need to run the gamut in media. And Nikita shows like a broken human being who is being broken again and then like fixing themselves. And in the end, they get their own agency. And that's a story that gets told for men all the time, right? Like John McClane is like broken through the whole Die Hard trilogy. and he never really fixes himself. But he gets to do all this badass stuff, and because he's a cool badass, but he really is like kind of a piece of shit and like broken and probably an alcoholic and all this stuff. And Nikita she's a drug addict. She literally murders someone in the start of the movie, and like you can kind of see like the remorse build of that over time, that like what her actions led to. And then in the end, like, is she seeking redemption for what she did, or is she just trying to get out from under someone's thumb? We're kind of left with a lot of questions, and I like that. I like that it's not this perfect story of, okay, now she's like a mindless killing machine. No, she has emotions the whole time, like a human being does. Yes. And in the end, she's just like, I'm out. Like, I just want to be free. I don't want to be a killer. I don't want to be this. Like, I just want to be able to make my own choices, because she's never been able to. And we don't see what kind of effect that's going to have on her, but I don't think it's up to us to see it. Like it kind of doesn't matter, because you have to be free to be able to fix yourself anyway. Like, you can't be under someone's thumb if you want to, get healthy. And I think
like the past doesn't have to.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to define you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a central theme to like a lot of these movies, even going to Jason Bourne and that, it's like, your past is your past, and that, even as bad as some of their pasts have been, and that it shouldn't automatically determine, the course of the rest of their lives.
You said it perfectly. Yeah. No, and that's the thing, the subtleties, the gray, and the lack of explicitly spelling out stuff, I thought was, that's the reason why I think the film was such a big deal back in the day. And I think that's why it holds up now. I mean, a lot of attitudes have changed, but I think the fact that it does still sort of work its way around a lot of stuff that's going on inside the characters, and it handles that really well, and is a little bit open-ended, I think makes it stand out. So yeah, so that was La Femme Nikita. So definitely, I think a movie worth watching, and definitely one that did, I guess, set a pattern that we're going to see, although I think handled less subtly.
It's definitely had an impact on cinema, like a significant impact on probably all cinema.
For sure.
Did anyone else have anything else they wanted to say about Nikita? Good. All right.
I watched it in French. Did everybody watch it in French, or did anybody watch it with dubs?
I watched it in French.
Yes.
Yeah, it's probably better in French.
We're all elitists. I have no idea. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, one question I did have, I guess it'll tie into our next film and that, but who did a better Victor? Jean Reno or Harvey Keitel?
Of course, Reno. I mean, Harvey Keitel was just like a plank of wood. So this is a good segue.
Harvey Keitel didn't get to act at all.
Yeah,
but Jean Reno got to act.
Guy.
Because Harvey Keitel has like 2 lines as well. That was actually something I should have brought up. I think you could watch La Femme Nikita without subtitles, because it's filmed so well and the acting is so good. You can read the emotion of every scene based on just the way the actors are expressing themselves. And that's really good acting.
That's fair. That's true. So, right.
OG Silence says Harvey Keitel was probably upset he didn't get to show his junk.
What might have improved the movie. I mean, Harvey Keitel's junk always.
That was another theme of Keitel's in the 90s.
Big part of it. All right, so moving on to 1993's American remake, Point of No Return, which, because it didn't do very well, they changed the title to The Assassin in other areas of distribution. I can't remember exactly, but anyway, this was a remake of La Femme Nikita. It wasn't directed by La Femme Nikita, and it starred Bridget Fonda and Gabriel Byrne. And
it's just not as good.
I'll let David go first.
It's just not as good. It's the script is by, obviously, like they just took the original script and they decided to take all of the most important lines and get rid of them. All the things that made it make a lot of sense, they got rid of them. Like the opening scene is similar, not shot for shot, but
a lot of crappy tracking slow-mo.
Yeah, really very 90s film. It's by the guy who directed War Games. Like, he hasn't directed actually as many movies as you'd think, but like he's done some movies. You're like, oh, those are really good films. But this just feels so mediocre. And like the acting is good. They try, they do a pretty good job, but it just like it's just inferior in every way. The emotion doesn't read as well. Like, remember, I watched this first and then went back to La Femme Nikita.
Oh God!
So I was like, I watched this movie and then I got to compare it, like just compare Nikita shot for shot, because I watched them back to back as well. And yeah, like Gabriel Byrne, who fantastic actor, I love him and like everything he does in this movie. I'm just like, he just kind of just talks, and his accent's a little inconsistent, which is too bad. The boyfriend, how they rewrote the boyfriend, who's played by Dermot Mulroney, right?
Dermot Mulroney.
Is that wrong?
Yep.
It's Dylan McDermott's brother.
Dermot Mulroney.
What's Dylan McDermott's brother? I can't think of his name right now. The lesser famous. The lesser famous. Anyway, he's just worse in every way. Yeah, we can hear you, Hawk.
Okay.
I gotta look it up. Dylan McDermott.
Dermot Mulroney.
It's Dylan McDermott. It's his brother. Is it not?
Yeah,
Am I crazy?
It's Dermot Mulroney. It is.
I don't know.
It doesn't matter. He's like this weird beach bum, and I don't know. Like, I guess in some respects they actually gave that character a lot more rewriting than anything else.
But he's not as interesting.
I preferred the other guy because he seemed a little more normal.
And he seemed like actually like he'd make like an okay boyfriend instead of like just some asshole who's just ragging on you all the time. He's like, why don't you do this? Why did you tell me about your, like in La Femme Nikita, she seems genuinely happy with, I can't remember his name right now. But like all he does is like give her shit, and he's just there. Like he's kind of just there for them to like do certain stuff. He doesn't. He just exists to serve the story. He doesn't, and not well either.
Yeah.
And all the rewrites just don't feel as good, but it feels more American is the thing, is that like he feels like he owns her as well, which is kind of shitty. Which is maybe the intention, is that they wanted it to feel like he's oppressing her as well. Whereas the other guy's kind of trying to set her free in some respects. Like he wants her to just accept her truth and get on with her life.
That's hard to say. I mean, I think the whole like boyfriend being in the dark is kind of a gray area in the first film, but in Point of No Return, there's a lot more sort of pressure on her, I feel. Hawk, what were your thoughts about Point of No Return, if you remember it?
Like I said, I just finished it before.
Oh, that's right. That's why you were watching it.
Yeah, it's an American remake, and that, some of it was maybe that's the problem, is that it didn't really try and deviate from the original script, and that the whole robbery scene was the same, and that her whole incarceration was pretty much the same. It did answer that. Even the way, because I remember I was watching the French film and that, because you're comparing the two of them. The one thing I couldn't remember was why she, I thought she was given the death penalty, and then I realized, well, France doesn't have the death penalty. So,
no, she has life imprisonment.
At least that part was
La
a
Femme
little
Nikita.
More, yeah. And then some guys come in and basically strap her to a chair and about to inject her with drugs to make it look like she committed suicide in that. So I guess in the American, it's much easier. Yeah, we have the death penalty here, so that part will be. Other than that, like, what else was a standout in this movie? Like, from your thoughts, was there anything?
Think about it.
Even the final mission was a little bit more sloppy this time around.
That was one thing that was slightly different. And I think the screw up made a little more sense I don't know. I
actually think the finale is overall worse, because Harvey Keitel tries to kill her. And Jean Reno is just like, hey, we got to complete the mission. Like, we're going to do everything we can to complete the mission. It's just like weird that like Harvey Keitel, like they film the tension well, where like they're kind of looking at it, like the guns and stuff like that. But other than that, it just feels like this guy's just going to try and kill her for kind of no reason.
It's a little bit too obvious.
Yeah.
That's true. That is different. That is one difference. I will say that that is one weakness of both films, because I think that in some of, like in Leon, for instance, is going a little off track. I feel that Leon is a stronger film because all the characters are established from the very beginning and exist till the very end. Whereas the introduction of the cleaner in both of these movies comes very late, and it's like a weird sort of like, what is this factor, you know? And it I don't know. I didn't feel that that was as effective in the arc. Anyway, that's just my own personal feeling. Marcus, with Point of No Return, what's your thoughts?
Best skydiving scene I've ever seen. You know, when Keanu comes in.
That's Point Break.
Point Break.
Point Break.
Right.
Yeah,
I didn't watch Point of No
Great
Return.
Military Academy. No, that's West Point.
Point of No Return is probably one of the movies you could easily skip. I mean, there's
It's very forgettable.
Hearing that it's just pretty much an Americanized remake of Nikita just makes me like, I'm not glad I didn't watch it, but just more like I don't think I missed out too much. So
You didn't. This movie's totally forgettable, which sucks.
Here's my scathing opinion of it. I thought the movie was extremely 90s, but extremely 90s TV. The movie did not feel like a film to me. The music was
This director did like twice as many TV movies as he did like actual films. So he seems like he was like kind of a legacy TV director.
Yeah, like the way they would try to like make the shots fancy by like putting this forced slow motion was like very like very mediocre looking, very TV. Everything felt TV. Like the scene cuts, the scripting, the delivery, and the music was horrendous. Like it was so like what you would expect from a TV movie. And I didn't really like Bridget Fonda. Now I don't remember her from anything, but
Kiss the Dragon.
She really
so good in Kiss of the Dragon. I love Kiss of the Dragon.
But she's the lead in this movie, okay? And honestly, every time I see a poster of this movie, because I don't know, it was a significant film of sorts, I guess, but I guess only because it was the remake of Nikita. I always think she's Jodie Foster from like Silence of the Lambs. Then I'm like, oh wait, no, it's somebody else entirely, right? And I forget it's Bridget Fonda. And the thing is, she's like a plank of wood for the entire movie. Like I don't really believe her character. Like by the end, we're like supposed to feel bad for her because she's like, I don't want to be killing people. And so like, well, we forgot to point out she only had 6 months of training. 6 months of training. Yeah, they gave her 6 months instead of 3 years. Right. Oh my God. So she does exactly the same amount of stuff as Nikita does, who I wouldn't say is 100% like master assassin, but after 3 years, I believe it. Whereas, Bridget Fonda gets 6 months.
When I hear about these kind of training times and stuff like that, I think to myself of like if okay, I can handle myself fairly well. I would never say that I can like kick somebody's ass like on a straight on 1-to-1 fight with most people I've seen in my area. I'd probably lose. Now you give me a year of training, I could probably beat that person that I'm thinking of in my head right now. But could I beat 2 of them? No. Could I beat 3 of them? Hell no. So just the idea of
it's actually kind of easier to beat multiple people in a fight than one-on-one.
Oh, okay. Well, so what we're going to do is we're going to get David, we're going to throw him into a prison. We're going to set him up like Bruce Wayne trying to fight bad guys all at one time.
You actually use them, you use their body. I mean, depending on what kind of training you've done, you use them against each other, right? Like you can just hide behind a person.
Like, you're saying it like it's so easy.
Like I've literally done it. Like I've literally fought multiple people at once, so... It is easier to fight because you can't. It's just depending on the size and space. Not with weapons, though, mind you. Not with weapons. That's very different.
I have been in many mosh pits in my entire life, and there are about 60 people around me, all with the singular goal of crushing whoever goes into the middle of that fucking circle. There is no fucking way that I could easily grab somebody there and just throw them around and do some stuff. Like, I would die. I would be fucking
I don't
dead.
go in mosh pits because I'm genuinely afraid that I will physically, like, just ruin another human being.
I have definitely almost died at least 20 times. Like, it is a dangerous place to be. So just the idea of going into a room where you don't know how many people are going to come at you with knives and guns, and they're going to kick your ass, they're going to fight you. They have training too. Like, it's not like these people are just nobodies. They all have training. So the idea that somebody has 6 months to train and becomes a master assassin is complete horseshit to me. I will let the movie magic take over, and in my mind, I'm like, okay, if you had a couple years of training, I'm going to say, sure. I'm on board for it. But
She also, don't forget, she also learned etiquette, computer
She learned to use a
skills,
mouse.
and languages.
Actually, that's one of my favorite things about these movies. They're like, we're going to teach you like etiquette. We're going to teach you how to do like, disguises, and we're going to teach you how to handle
Knives and
weapons,
forks.
and also computers, because this is the 90s, and it's like, and then what they show is like, this is MS Paint, and what you can do. Actually, it wasn't even MS Paint. It was like an iMac, and they were doing like iMovie or something. And they're like, we can make it. Now make the T-Rex eat his head. Like, what does this have to do? Because later on, when she like hacks into his computer, I mean, in the Femme Nikita, she like it's not quite the same. It's actually seems more plausible. Whereas the other movie, it's like, give me your, like she's got her, she's like, you give me your password, and he's like, no. What do you like? You can't get my stuff if you don't have it. Like, I'm not gonna do it. She's like, oh, this sucks.
Can we just like do a little sidebar here and just like take a moment for like the 90s computer movies like Johnny Mnemonic,
Great movie.
Lawnmower Man.
Not a great movie.
Was good? Fucking Hackers.
Hackers.
I loved
Hack the Planet.
Hackers. But like it was like, come on, they're like, yeah, man, 28.8 modem. This is gonna be the shit.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Wish that crap. I mean, this is one thing I wish I'd taken better notes of. I actually do have use of floppy disks marked down in some of the movies. I couldn't remember if that was in Nikita. I don't believe so. But yeah, learning how to use a mouse.
They use floppy disks in Red Sparrow, and I was like, what is this movie set? Wait, what? This movie, they have flat screen TVs. Why are they using floppy disks?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. No, I don't believe floppy disks were a feature of La Femme Nikita and Point of No Return. But using a mouse, learning how to use a mouse was.
That was the best part of Point of No Return. He goes, this is a mouse, and it's a trackball. And then she's moving around. I'm like, that's not a mouse.
Banging on it, like that was what's so frustrating.
Oh my god, yeah. They're like, could you?
She grabs it, she pick it up, and it's like.
Now, Bridget, in this scene, could you pretend to be caveman lawyer? Like, if you could just channel your best Phil Hartman impression right now, and she's just like, computer not working. She's a normal human being. Like, she has full function of her hands.
Okay. All right. Let's get away from Point of No Return. I think we've.
Yeah, it's terrible. Don't watch it. Just if you want to watch something, watch La Femme Nikita.
Yeah, exactly. So here's my checklist. Woman taken from society after killing a cop, given the death penalty, given a second chance, 6-month program. She does jump through a small gap by going into the laundry chute, just like in La Femme Nikita. Learns how to use a mouse. Boyfriend knows nothing, but he is alive at the end. Or both, I guess, if you want to call it both. Actually, one thing I forgot to mention, she and Nikita are both given a bad job where things are not really set up properly. And we do get to see that she gets to walk away in the Miami Beach rain at the end. So she gets to enjoy the rain. All right. So moving on to Columbiana from 2011, which was a film that Zoe Saldana starred in. Now, this, interestingly, was meant to actually be originally a sequel to Leon. This was meant to be Matilda, which was meant to pick up Natalie Portman's story. But in the end, that never happened. I don't really know the reasons, but I have a feeling she didn't really want to go back and
I think she was
that anymore.
Already finished making Star Wars movies by the time this came out. So
anyway, it got pushed back so many times. So the script got reworked, and it became Columbiana. And at this point, Zoe Saldana had been in Avatar,
and Star Trek.
And Star Trek. So this was her first, I guess we'll call it more action-y role before she became Gamora. So there's that sort of history there. So this is her big starring role. Also, incidentally, La Femme Nikita means, I don't. Our French viewers can correct me on this. I believe it just means the woman Nikita, or sometimes translated.
La Femme means the woman. Yeah.
Whereas Columbiana means a woman from Colombia, I believe. I don't know if that's a connection or not, but I don't know why the movie's called Columbiana, because they never refer to her as that. Her name in the movie is called.
Columbiana is the flower she leaves behind. Like that's.
Oh no, it's the Catalea. That's the name of the flower.
The Catalea.
I don't know.
Name.
Shit.
I don't know why the word never comes up. So anyway,
what the hell are you talking about, Marcus?
I don't know. I've been drinking.
Me too. It's fine. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Here, cheers. So,
drink responsibly.
No.
Not like these two.
Yeah. No. So So, Hawk, did you see this film or no?
I didn't get to this one. I didn't get around to. I had seen at least the end part, like, on
Yeah.
TV a bunch of times. It's doing the the whole cable network rounds and that, So I was just trying to catch up on the plot. I found like out the basics in that of what happened in that. That's a little girl in that, her husband or her father and her mother in that. I guess they were part of the cartel in that. They were doing the
Actually,
books for them
I
in
think
that.
her father was an assassin for the
yeah,
cartel, and then he decided to
He wants out.
put it out, and you don't get out. And
That's right.
so,
Nope.
so they blew away her family, and she parkours her way all the way to America, which is pretty impressive. And
As a
and then
child,
finds-
alone.
as a child, a little girl,
Yeah.
a 12-year-old girl,
Tracks down
manages
her uncle.
And with a
uncle.
with a microchip in her
stomach.
tummy and that,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
she knew it was the only
Sure.
place to hide it from the.
Did she keep eating it,
from
you
the guys
think?
coming for
Or did she just eat it right before she got there?
Oh God. Okay. All right. We're asking too many questions of this movie. Okay. So she. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I guess I will cover the main plot. Yeah. She is a little girl. She's a 12-year-old girl, daughter of an assassin. But her parents love her. They're
She didn't
very
poop the
loving
whole
parents. And unfortunately, the parents are murdered because they tried to break away. She escapes to America. I think Chicago, is it? I don't remember. She
Yes.
finds
Yeah.
her. She finds her uncle, who raises her and basically decides to become an assassin. And 10 years later, so she has one of the more impressive training regimes because she actually got to do it for 10 years at least, and then decides to go on revenge to try to draw out the cartel that murdered her father, who has since disappeared because the cartel is under American CIA protection, because every movie that involves Besson involves corrupt government officials.
Yeah,
So,
it's a theme in his films.
he hates cops.
Yeah.
It's funny. I don't know.
He's French.
So anyway, yeah, I don't want to make that assumption, but yeah, that might be it. I don't know, David. What's your opinion then of this?
I remember liking it when it first came out. I think I got through maybe an hour of this film before passing out, because I this was the third movie I'd watched that day.
After your vaccination.
I think this is the day before my vaccination.
Okay, all right.
And so I was like working on D&D stuff, but it's kind of silly. It's got overly complicated set pieces, which always like wrinkle me. It's like there's a much easier way. It's one of the where I was like, man, I remember writing in the Discord I was watching it in, and I was like, wow, if someone just locked the electrical door, this plane doesn't work at all. Right? Like it just
Sure.
stops working all of a sudden because you don't have any way of getting in there to cause the lights to go out, to cause this to happen, 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 so you can get to here and then do your,
She had a lot of convenience.
It's a very
Yeah.
complicated plan, which is very Luc Besson, though. But I remember liking it. I think she'd already been in The Losers, too, which was like 2 or 3 years prior.
Yeah.
And I love The Losers, so I was hoping I hope she's like kind of like that again, which is not exactly the case. She's a little more vulnerable in this film, which is probably for the better. It's a much better role overall, but I feel like the film is kind of like, hey, what if we made like a female version of Man on Fire, but with kind of less gruesomeness, I guess would be the way. But they have a very similar color palette, like, but also like I think Tony Scott is just a better director, or I should say was a better director. So like this film's pretty good, but it's not amazing. I would say on like revenge flicks, it's kind of probably near like the middle of the pack.
Yeah.
Marcus, did you see this one? I forget if
I did. Yes,
Okay.
I watched Columbiana. I didn't watch it recently, but I watched it a couple of years ago. I don't know. Me and my wife decided we wanted to watch something. We're like, oh, this looks like a fun action movie, and we watched it. I was a big fan of Zoe Saldana, so I'm like, yeah, let's see what she's got up to in this movie. And like David said, like when we watched it, I remember being like, oh, it's pretty good. I liked it. Like I liked the movie, but like doing a refresher of it before we did this, I was just like, oh yeah, now I do. I kind of remember that part. That kind of seems stupid. Like that, there's just like little things where you're just kind of like, I think David kind of said it really well. It's almost like it's the film is convenient. Like it's complicated but convenient all at the same time, where it's like it's a complicated plot point that she's trying to do, but it all conveniently worked out really well for her. And whether that was good planning or whether that's just a movie trying to fit itself into an hour and 40 minutes, like whatever it is.
I think it's writers working backwards to make things interesting.
Yeah, because that's how you kind of have to do any kind of movie where you have some sort of convoluted plot. You have to have the outline of the end first and go backwards, right? So I mean, sometimes I feel like they forget that it has to be realistic or challenging to get to that point, and they maybe get lazy. I feel like this might have been one of those cases, but it's not a bad movie.
No,
it's just not a great movie. It's a movie. If you got some time and you want to kill, I think it's probably cool. There's some cool stuff in it. There's some cool scenes. The being ripped apart by dogs is pretty cool. Like, I like that. Like, like it's
fair enough.
But
that again, it was like that was another convenience, right?
It was exactly end, right? That's what I mean. I'm like, was that planned? Was it like really actually?
Yeah, apparently she planned that from a long time
of
back.
Course,
with raising the dogs and that, and he managed to kind of fall into place when her plan was executed, and then got into that right van,
I guess she left the van there, so I mean, I suppose,
there's
less convoluted.
But
I know.
But there's enough free will in any person that things could have gone completely differently. So anyway, but. Again, for the sake of I mean, we're talking about movies where people can seemingly train for a certain amount of times and become master assassins, and so I'm there's things to just kind of let go from the wayside and just be like, okay, fine, I secede that. But I thought it was cool. Like there's some good stuff to it. Zoe Saldana's fine; she's pretty good in it. I don't think it's her best role, but she does a decent job. But overall, it's not a memorable movie. I feel like it's not something. If someone is like, "Oh, name some movies where you have strong female leads kicking ass," it's not one that's going to come to my mind at all. So,
OG Silent asked, "Why did she need the skin tight black suit?" And I would say, one, because it's a movie.
Yeah.
And two, because realistically, those vents she crawls in would be filthy.
And hot.
And she would, and you wouldn't want, and she would be covered in dust. So if you turn it inside out again, like you wouldn't be, because when the cops come through to look, they're like, lock this place down, and like, well, that person's covered in dust. Were they covered in dust when they came in here? No, that's our perpetrator.
Movie vents have always been cleaned by the best movie.
That's probably thinking too far ahead for the how this movie was written.
I also like how in all of these movies that like they're all the women, like it's an ongoing theme with the whole idea of the female assassin and stuff like that, especially the trained female assassin and everything like that they're all just really good actresses, like they can just put it on and off for you. Like it's like one moment they're a drunk stupid girl, or they're somebody afraid and they're they're in danger, oh my god, but then instantly like, okay, now I'm gonna get that kill, and it's like, oh no, I'm sorry, please.
Well,
and I think that's what I think. To me, that's actually the best selling point to them in their skill set. Like I feel like
the manipulation
aspect
disarming
of it is the better part of the whole thing, rather than them being able to kick ass, rather than them being able. Like I actually kind of wish the movies focused more on them, like mentally manipulating the people around them and the people that they interact with, as opposed to just walking into a room secretly having a gun in their purse or under a dress and then bang,
well,
bang,
boy,
bang,
do I have the right movie for you then. It's called Black Widow.
Yeah. That aspect actually is touched upon in Nikita, because they try to train her in her behavior. And they do touch upon in both those movies that, being a woman has certain advantages, and that might be a stereotype now, and is a trope, definitely, but it is an aspect of these films. But they did, I think going into the far future, we see that applied very effectively with Black Widow as a character in the MCU, right? I mean, she freaking trolls Loki of all people, right? So that is an aspect that is going to carry through, because I think it comes from the era of femme fatales, right? 1950s fear of women, and it translates as a skill set into these movies. Now, whether or not that's a good thing or not, I can't say.
But I mean, I think it's not just some sort of trope in that. I think it's probably based on like some of the stuff
I
that
think it's true.
does occur within
I think it's true.
espionage.
Yeah, to some. Yeah.
This is why when the whole subject for this topic came up and that I was thinking, oh, are we going to take selections and that there was a movie I wanted to put forward for the kind of spycraft that a female agent is capable of in that versus like a male agent.
X versus Sever. Oh,
I don't know if anybody's seen that.
Oh,
no. You've seen that movie?
Sorry, yes, please continue, Hawk.
What was the movie, Hawk?
So it's called Lust Caution. It was directed by Ang Lee. Tony Leung, he plays a Chinese like a security minister in that. He's like with the Interior Ministry and that. He's responsible. I think it takes place around like the 60s and that. He's one of those guys.
Story set in Hong Kong in 1938 and Shanghai in 42.
Like, okay. Yeah. So yeah, but he was one of the ones responsible for disappearing people who spoke out against the government and that. And the actress in it, I can't remember. God, I wish I'd looked up her name. She was a student from an acting troupe in that who was basically recruited by a rebel group in that to become this guy's mistress and girlfriend in order to lure him out into a trap because he never goes anywhere without his guards and that, and they needed
the
bring
sort
him out
of
into the open.
the honeypot sort of concept. Which becomes more obvious in some of the other films. That's not really a factor of Columbiana, but yeah, it's definitely an element of all these movies. And I think there is some truth to manipulation of men because it's, in the case of Columbiana, it's a useful, lazy writing element. Guys are dumb, and when you need them to be dumber, you have a woman trick them. But it is actually a focus of some of the other films, like in Anna. I mean, I don't have anything issue with. I don't have much to say about Columbiana. I think we should move on from this movie. I thought it was the table scraps of Leon and Nikita. It wasn't actually directed by Besson, but it was written by Besson because the abandoned script. But it really didn't take those elements and use them in a good way. And I think it was very convoluted and I think very convenient. And like Marcus said, it's not a movie you're going to think of in the ranking of women killers who are strong and memorable. Like her arc is very simple. Like it's just a basic kung fu from the Shaw brothers. Oh, you killed my family. Wait 10 years. I'm going to get you. Right. Like that's it. That's every kung fu movie that the Shaw brothers ever released. OK. And that's Columbiana, except it's got CIA and Colombians, I guess. I don't know.
It's a little weird because it's like, this is something she's wanted since she was a little kid and that, and it's like she's an adult now. Does she have no arc, or is she still wants what a little child wants?
You've already made it.
Its parents.
That actually hurts the film even more, pointing that out. All right, well, okay, so here it is. So she's an orphaned child, raised for 10 years to be an assassin. She does jump through a small gap. Her boyfriend knows nothing but does survive. However, her new family is entirely slaughtered, so that's a downside of knowing her. And she walks away free at the end. All right, so moving on to Anna, 2019. This was Besson's most recent iteration of his Nikita, let's call it, I don't even know what
plot, story, whatever.
His collection, his Nikita collection.
Yeah.
And it definitely modernizes things. I'm kind of curious to see what you guys drew from it. David, what did you think of
this is definitely, I like this more than Black Widow. I really enjoy this movie. I tend to enjoy like Russian spy thrillers. I usually play as Russia in games if I can. That's half my heritage. So plus I do the accents pretty well. And I just thought like the pacing was good. The action was and keep in mind I watched this first. Just everything it felt modern. It felt good, even though it's kind of set it's set in like maybe the 70s or 80s or something like that. Like I don't think there's any cell phones in this movie.
Floppy disks, I think, but I might be getting them all mixed up.
No, that's Red Sparrow.
Sorry.
I don't think
this is set. Sorry. This is totally 80s and that. I remember because I think the opening scene takes place in about 85.
Should have been floppy.
Okay.
Anyway.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. They're very specific. It's set like 1985. I thought the plot wasn't as convoluted as it was for some other things, and I think this has the best ending actually out of all of them, where she takes everything she's learned. Because in the other movies, it's supposed to be kind of like, yeah, she kind of takes what she learns and like turns it around on them. And this movie, she really takes what she learns and turns it around on everyone. And I think unlike some of the previous films, she might actually have more genuine feelings for her male counterparts. Where because she really, it's not that she doesn't just want to not hurt people. It's that she genuinely cares about the people around her. Whereas in the Femme Nikita, she really only cares about herself. It seems.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But whatever. I don't know that I've. Yeah. But anyway, sorry. Go on.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but or maybe it's just depicted better in this, the way she kind of cares about people.
It's more obvious. Like that's the one difference, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, it
leaves a lot of things up in the air. Whereas, and I don't think that she didn't care for those people. I think she kind of took the best option that was available to her. But in Anna, it is true that she definitely does care about everybody.
Yeah, I think she also has more freedom in this movie than she's still stuck in her situation where she can't listen, you got to work for us, you got to do this stuff. But I don't want to say there's when people are like, oh, you got to watch this kind of movie because it's got to I would just watch this without knowing anything. The only thing that annoyed me about this movie is for some reason, whenever there's a photographer in movies like this, they're just the biggest assholes. And all of the photographers are huge fucking assholes. And I know people who are photographers, they're not assholes. But I don't know if it's just like a French trope or what, or something with models. Because obviously there's a lot of models in this film because that's Anna's cover. She's a model.
Yeah, she's her cover. She's a supermodel.
Oh my God.
But it's just I don't know. That's the only thing that really wrinkled me. I really enjoyed this movie.
That level.
Go ahead, Hog.
It's that level. It's when you get into this top echelon of Paris, fashion models, and that, I'm sure the personality levels tend to, degrade at some point.
And I think this movie has probably more in common with
opposite impression
Black Widow because of the whole Red Room stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. I had the opposite impression in that. She was a player from the beginning, and that her options were set out before her, and that, and she at that point it was survival. People were basically objects to her, and that the girlfriend that she got in her modeling gig, and that it was a good cover for her, and that, as one guy said, and that keeps the wolves at bay, and that so men knew not to come around, and that. Manipulating her handler, and that the weaker link in her chain of command, and that played by Luke Evans, and that does a good job. Although I don't know why British guys are always getting Russian
and everything.
roles.
Okay, they're the best. Villains.
But Luke Evans does a Russian accent in a lot of movies.
Yeah,
did a good job.
And then Then on top of all that, I was like, no, she's not going for this trifecta. She manipulates Cillian Murphy's character as well. Not, you can see her. These people are chess pawns to her.
Mm-hmm.
She is a master chess player in this film.
The only one she was.
It's true. That's
the only one.
A detail. Yes.
Yeah. Right. The only one she couldn't fully manipulate was the one played by Marin, right? Yeah. But even she finds a workaround for that.
Marcus, did you have anything else, Hawk, that you wanted to?
No, not right now. Like I said, it's a really good film. I really enjoyed the kind of time lapse in the plot, and that it's why is she acting like this? Yeah, it's oh, yeah. That I thought that actually added a great layer to it.
Did you catch Anna or no?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I watched Anna. I watched it when it first came out. I remember when it was first released and everything. So me and my wife watched it again because we were just in a zone. I think it was actually, maybe not within the same year. I think it was maybe within the same year we watched Columbiana and Anna and stuff like that. But Anna was it's just an awesome movie. I remember we kind of stumbled upon it. We're like, oh, this seems like it could be cool. Let's just check it out. Oh, it's brand new. Let's watch it. And we watched it, and I loved it. It was a great movie. I love the characters. I like Cillian Murphy in a lot of his roles. I feel like he does some pretty cool stuff. I don't know. He always seems slightly untrustworthy in every role he ever does, but that's what makes me enjoy him. I'm like, one
well
day
cast.
you're gonna, one day he's gonna have a role where he really gets to twist something, and I'm
Have you
looking
not
forward to that.
seen Red Eye?
Yeah, I've seen Red Eye.
He's pretty.
That was
He's pretty.
Yeah, but that was a long time ago. I want another. I want more.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. Okay.
But I thought it was a good movie. This movie, while I think everybody did a great job, and the girl who plays Anna does a very good job, but I have to give it to the supporting cast in this movie, like Luke Evans and Cillian Murphy and Helen Mirren. Like they're the reason that
good.
Helen Mirren, you put her in any kind of spy thriller, Russian spy thriller, like she's so good. She's untouchable. She's so good. I still love her in Red. Like the
Red's so good.
Like, oh my god, she's the best character there. Her and John Malkovich kind of come toe to toe there. It's great. But anyway, I feel like the supporting cast is really what sells it for me. Especially I think we can go into the spoiler territory of this movie. Like it's, but like at the end when Helen Mirren kind of sees the letter, or what was it, the note or whatever she leaves for her.
The video.
It's a video
message
on
the
the head of the KGB computer.
Yeah. And I just love like the sly smile, like she just kind of smiles like she's proud of her and just starts deleting her name from the thing, and I'm like, but she's just so awesome. I just love her.
Yeah, this was something that this movie had that the other movies didn't, is that there was another woman who was kind of like in the end rooting for her, right?
Yeah.
Which was nice. I think it's a nice change.
Yeah. And again, perfectly cast, because Helen Mirren is just like that perfect character to play that role where you're just like, you believe it. You're like, oh, she's on board. She's been helping her this whole time. Like,
and that's, you could believe that she's been through the same thing. Like she can play that off really well.
Exactly. However, she's at this point is like, she's in too far, and she's like, well, if I'm going to be here, I'm at least going to be at the top of the food chain, which is pretty fucking awesome too. Like they both played the system so well, and I'm like, oh. And just when you think Helen Mirren's got it all figured out, then that video plays and you're just like, oh shit. Like just that nice little bit. I love it. Very good. I thought it was a good movie. I kind of agree with David. I like this better than Black Widow. It's a better paced movie. It's like I was engaged the entire time, where once we get talking to it, I'll explain. Black Widow, I was not. There was many times where I zoned completely the fuck out.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Oh, cool. I guess I have a slightly opposite opinion. I think Anna is a fine movie. I would recommend it if people want to see kind of a twisty, turny spy movie. I think the lead does an exceptional job. Like, I believe her as a supermodel, and I believe her as a spy. And those are sort of the two key elements of this. Whereas in some of the other movies, I wasn't so sure, about, like Point of No Return. I don't know that I believe Bridget Fonda's performance. And that's a really good point about the strong sort of female character in Helen Mirren. We had a kind of a matron character in Point of No Return in Nikita, but they were really quite powerless in the end. They were part of the regime, and they do understand what Nikita yearns for, but they've kind of accepted their place, and it's kind of sad, whereas Helen Mirren is similar, but she actually comes out on top due to Anna's machinations, and it's sort of cool to see that. And Anna is by far the most, I would say, convoluted, but not in a bad way. It has a lot of flashbacks to like what was actually going on, and it's like,
for sure.
And so it's fun in that respect, because you get to sort of revisit scenes, and it's consistent. There weren't any real plot holes, I guess the only thing I found is I watched this when it came out in 2019, and it's funny because this was like right after the Me Too sort of situation, and I felt a little bit kind of like, oh, I don't know about her, being with these guys. Like that was the thing when she went with Cillian Murphy, I was like, I don't know. I mean, she was always in charge. It was always her choice, right? And that's something that they really tried to push, right? But I just felt like, oh, this movie has just slightly become dated. Like if it was 10 years earlier, it would unfortunately be acceptable.
It might be worth stating that Luc Besson was accused several times during the Me Too stuff, and is still like there's still stuff going back and forth.
There's some allegations, yeah. So those two things in mind, I was like watching this movie and just going, oh man, Nikita, perfect for the 90s. Anna in 2019,
yep.
I'm not so sure, So I think it's an okay movie if you are able to look past that sort of thing. And I do feel that, yeah, it's got a lot of modernizations, and I think her victory is definitely biggest over all the other characters that we'll probably discuss for the most part. Yeah, that's sort of my I'm not as strong on this movie, but I watched this a long time ago, and it was kind of what I remembered, and yeah, it's fun.
I think if you want to watch I think the most fun movie is Anna, and if you want a darker tone, watch Red Sparrow.
Yeah,
and because I think they're both very good.
Yeah. All right, well, I think we'll move on because we got one more big one to cover. So yeah, Anna, woman recruited from a very bad crime situation similar to Nikita, has at least 1 year of training, possibly operates for more. I'm not really sure. She also jumps through a small gap, and her boyfriends, 'cause I guess she has two.
Yeah.
Are in the know, but not entirely. Anna manipulates everybody in this movie, like everybody. And but luckily her boyfriends live, which is, I guess, a pro. But she has a complete clean break. She by far succeeds stronger than anybody in any of these movies. She's totally free at the end from freaking KGB and CIA by the end. So yeah, so if you want to see a win, she's the winner. All right. So that brings us to, I'm going to scroll down here.
What we're all really here for.
Yes.
Iron Man 2. Oh.
Yes, Iron Man 2, where the Black Widow was introduced. So Black Widow from 2021. So yeah, this is a movie that has been in development forever. I don't really want to go into the history of it. It's complicated, but frankly, I think especially with COVID and everything that happened with movie releases, it's definitely been sort of, around a little bit, and I think that may have hurt, a lot of things to do with this movie. But yeah, Hawk, what did you think of this movie?
You know what? I came in with a certain expectation of the movie. I thought this will probably be a pretty good to average movie, in that, I came out a little more on top in that, finding it like really a satisfying conclusion, I guess, to her story, and that, if the conclusion is the right word in that. But I mean, if we were going to get a solo movie, this was the one, and that, seeing her kind of clean up, well, a lot of the biggest mistakes in her life, and that, in kind of one fell sweep, and that I really enjoyed it. I think I might have a higher opinion of this movie.
Was there anything in particular, like in this whole convoluted Nikita to Natasha journey, that you found was sort of interesting to see change by the time we got to Black Widow, like to 2021? I know that's a weird question.
I'm trying to think. It is a weird, yeah. I do like there was more of an emphasis on like the situation of Nikita is something that is going on, or sorry, not Nikita, but Black Widow and Nikita and that, but it is also something that's going on around, all with the world and that, and human trafficking and that, and especially with girls and that. And I think that was one of the themes that, the scope of it is something that they really tried to highlight, and that, especially towards the end and that, so I did really enjoy that aspect. I think that was probably the influence of Scarlett being
absolutely
executive producer on this film.
Marcus, what were your thoughts of Black Widow?
I thought it was it's a good movie. It's not going to be anywhere in my top for the Marvel cinematic universe kind of thing, I don't think. But it's good. It's not the worst of them. My problem for this movie was more so some of the technical aspects of it. I felt like it was a little bit of a slow burn for this movie. I felt like it kind of dragged its feet a little bit, and I honestly think that this would have been better if it had been released within the time frame that it's kind of telling the story of. Like I didn't see any.
Sure.
There was no reason to do the whole end game sequence, because at this point, if anybody is listening to this and doesn't know end game and what happens, then I'm sorry, spoiler alert, but who the hell hasn't seen it? With her death at the end of Endgame, we know that, okay, this movie takes place in a timeline before all of this. So I was expecting some form of like a reason why we're hearing this story later on. Like maybe they had something that they were going to slip in there that was going to give us an idea of like, oh, she planted a seed for this later or for something. And
Sure.
I feel like the only seed that they really planted for that was her sister. And to me, that wasn't really worth it. It wasn't really like something that I'm not excited about. I wasn't, and what that seed implicates, I was already prepared for it to begin with. So I just feel like it's a good movie that was released at a wrong time, and then the buildup of them being like, well, we're only going to wait until we can put it in theaters. It's meant to be in theaters. We're not going to release it on Disney Plus. We're not going to release it on Disney Plus. Okay, hey, guess what? We're just going to give it to you on Disney Plus now. Like all of that hoopla,
and it did well. It did well on Disney
it did.
Plus.
No, it did honestly, and I think it's fair. Like the movie's going to do well no matter what, and it's not a bad movie. But it's the fact that all of this stuff has happened, and I do partly blame the pandemic and all that kind of stuff because it really messed with their timeline, messed with everybody's timeline, but it messed with everybody's in like their oh god, I can't find words. Expectations, sorry. Yeah, everybody's expectations of this movie were so high at this point because they're like, well, they won't let us see it. Something's going on. This is going to be really big.
It better be very important if we waited 2 years.
Yeah, okay, and then it came out and it wasn't that important. It was good. It was great, and I agree completely with Hawk. Like I like the fact that the movie did highlight the idea of like human trafficking and stuff like that as a big problem, and like the scope that they do show on that end, like with that computer seeing all those faces and stuff. It's kind of horrifying and nightmarish to think of that as a real thing, but it definitely is a real thing, and it's something that should be more in everybody's forethought. But as a Marvel, comic book lover and MCU fan, and the future of the movies and all that kind of stuff, I was really hoping that this was going to be an unlocking of deeper knowledge for us for what's happening to the future. And I don't think it is. It's got a few little bits in there, but again, I think in the performance of this movie, the highlight comes from the supporting cast again. Nothing against Scarlett Johansson. She does a great job, but she's been playing this character for so long, it's kind of more of the same. In fact, actually, I thought this one, she kind of portrays less intelligence to me in this one than she's done in some of the other movies that she's appeared in.
She's also kind of supposed to be like kind of broken at the start of this movie.
Yes.
But I don't think they do a very good job of establishing that because the Avengers have broken up and she's like, well, that's my family. I just lost my family.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like it doesn't seem to her like, or at least it doesn't seem to me as an audience goer that actually is as big a deal to her as it turns out to be by the end of the film. I just, and I don't think it's her fault. I don't think it's her fault as a performer. I think it's the way the script was kind of arranged that faulted there. But I loved the introduction of the Red Guardian. I loved I loved her sister's character. She was a sweet, funny character towards the end, but at the beginning, God, she was killing me. She was annoying. I wanted to kind of strangle her at times.
Oh, okay.
But like, well, just because like I don't know, it was just the way she pipes in and stuff, and I'm like, what the fuck is this chick gonna do this the whole time? But then by the end of it, I was like, I love it. My favorite line to this day, and I still quote it once in a while while we're just driving around or something. I just kind of stick up my thumb and like, everybody's doing a really good job. Like, I just love that. Yeah, I mean, I didn't love this movie, but I didn't hate it. But I'm not sure if now's the time to bring it up, but my biggest gripe, and I knew it was going to happen. And
this is the Geeks with Kids podcast. This is where we gripe.
Okay, well, here's I'm gonna gripe because I have been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for fucking Taskmaster to show up on screen, and I was so motherfucking disappointed. This was bullshit. I am pissed off. I am really mad. I just didn't.
Yeah, it does suck that. I'm just gonna say spoilers now. So if
spoiler,
if you haven't watched it yet, just come back and watch the rest of this later.
Let's hang on to that. It's only been a couple days, guys. Okay, on the Taskmaster, let's just leave that one. Okay,
because I mean,
It's 2 days.
It's okay.
Yeah, but we're like an hour and 50 minutes into the podcast.
Let's not spoil Black Widow of all things. Okay, everything else was.
It's also all over the
2 years
internet.
old.
Like it's spoiled really hard on the internet.
It is on the
It sucks.
It is.
But I think we could say it sucks. But I don't think we should give it.
I just think Taskmaster should be an unrepentant villain because
Yes.
that's what he is in the comics.
That's where I agree.
I mean, he trains heroes sometimes too, right? I
He
mean, I
trains
don't think
Deadpool.
Oh, that's good, isn't it? I mean,
No.
he trains an anti-hero.
No,
I mean,
Deadpool. No, Deadpool's not an anti-hero. Deadpool's an anti-villain. Is what he
I
is.
just-
Fine.
One thing with the Taskmaster, I'm not going to give the
The fighting was
thing
cool
away.
with Taskmaster.
fighting was-
It was cool.
The fighting was cool, but there wasn't enough of it. I feel like I saw
Yes.
pretty much everything in the trailer. I don't think I saw anything that
Guys, don't
wasn't.
watch trailers, guys. I don't watch any trailers.
How do I know what movies to watch if I don't watch the trailer?
I watch trailers.
If you're gonna go see Black Widow, just watch the movie. Don't worry about the trailer.
It's gonna come on.
I haven't even
before
watched
something.
that
trailer.
fucking Shang-Chi trailer. You guys were all.
It's Shang-Chi. Okay, you're Chinese. You should know that.
Shang-Chi, and oh my god, I've seen the trailer, and there's no way that movie can disappoint me. I do not believe that movie can disappoint me in the slightest. I'm so excited for it.
Doesn't matter. I'm
Anyway.
not watching the trailer. I don't care.
It's gonna be
That's
real
fine.
kung
You don't have
fu.
to.
That's your mistake. Walking into these things with expectations and that. Like, I don't know who would walk into this movie, Black Widow, with expectations about the future of the franchise, considering that we knew this was going to be a
Well, we know
prequel.
there's one possible
that
future
kinda
for the
thing,
franchise, and that's
personally.
Yelena Belova, right? That she might
Yeah.
become the new
Yeah.
Black Widow because she was in the comics.
Sure.
But like the
You know,
on the
yeah.
topic of Taskmaster, I don't. It's not really a spoiler, but like because it comes off really early in the movie, like the input and like kind of computerized version of like this. Oh, the Taskmaster
Sure.
is learning through
Change.
watching computer.
Yeah, you just made a worse version of the Terminator.
Yeah, and
Not
like
a
the
bad
idea.
thing. I don't know. Worse version.
It's a worse version of the
It
Terminator.
is. In the comic books, Taskmaster claims, because you don't actually know much about his actual background, but he claims that he's had the ability to mimic and learn and
He has
study
photographic
and,
muscles.
all of that shit was apparently from birth. Like this guy was able to just do this for forever and just can mimic voices, can mimic like everything and all this kind of shit. That was the only superpower there, was this mimicry kind of thing. And in this movie, they just kind of hurl that out the window and say, no, it's computers.
Fair enough, I guess.
Yeah, it's it's
Look,
very early.
I love Taskmaster as well as a character, but I accept that he was the token muscle. He's not even the main bad guy, right?
This isn't even a Trevor Slattery level,
Yeah, no.
that was funny. This is not funny.
Yeah.
No.
But I get his function in the movie, so I don't take it as personally. But okay, David, what did you think of the movie?
The first thing I want to jump on is when Marcus brought up the human trafficking stuff, because that comes in very late in the movie, and I think that's that's actually to its detriment. Because the whole time you're just like, oh, this is kind of just like revenge, like you kind of fucked up and you want to like fix that. It feels like that should have been a point way earlier, and it also feels, as far as that goes, very impersonal. It's weird to think that like Taken has a more heartfelt story in that regard than this, because that's kind of what that whole movie's about. But that's also kind of what this whole movie's about. It's like taking away the agency of young women. And it's weird that it didn't feel like that's what the movie was about by the end to me. It was like, yeah, we're like, what do we do now? It's like, oh, so these people still aren't free, is what you're telling me, is because you still haven't given them their agency yet. They're still asking, like, hey, they're still asking for permission, which I feel is kind of like you could have added. I don't know what they needed to add, but they needed to add something to kind of fix that, because it didn't feel right to me at the end to have these people saying, well, what do we do now? Well, you're people and you're humans and go do what humans do, you know? But I guess it kind of makes sense because their whole situation, but I felt like there could have been more to that. Other than that, I actually don't like that my favorite character in this is Red Guardian. Because it's directed by a woman, it's written by a woman, it's produced by a woman, it's starring women. And it's like, this guy is the funnest part of the movie, and it's a Marvel movie. So shouldn't it be fun? Like,
I still think I still think
Really
Yelena is
fun.
actually the fun.
She's the
funniest
second to me. Yeah,
he's number 2.
because that was my thing going into this. It was like I saw Midsummer in theaters, and I was like, I can't stand Florence Pugh. I can't stand her.
For me.
I like,
ruined
oh
for
my
me.
god, no! Like,
She was really good in this movie.
and
but I was
Midsummer
like,
is so good, but I hate it. Right? It's an amazing film, but I hated the experience, and I hated her the whole time. And then in this movie, I'm like, oh no, she's great. She's delightful. Oh my god, I love that she's taking the piss out of Black Widow.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great. She's very interesting. I feel like she didn't get enough though. Like, we didn't get enough of her. We didn't get, especially if she's going to be the next Black Widow. Not that they say that, but it seems kind of obvious. She's really good. Her action scenes are all really good. Her accent is consistent, unlike everyone else's for some reason, which drove me
David
fucking
Harbour's
insane.
all over the place.
David Harbour, Rachel Weisz is like, okay. There's one character at the end. That accent is terrible. And I'm like, this is I'm sure this got less of a budget than the other Marvel movies, and that bothers me because it's a flagship Marvel movie. This should have the whatever 250 500 million. I don't give a shit. Like, these people, get them dialogue coaches, because these are big actors, and they're
But again, why
all four of them.
why are we getting like a whole bunch of British actors doing
Again,
horrible
yeah.
Russian accents
yeah.
like over and over again? Why is this a consistent thing?
Yeah.
Are there no good Russian actors out there?
Apparently
Pretty
not.
sure there are.
Apparently not. Oh no, the only really good Russian. They're not actually a Russian actor. They're from somewhere nearby, if I'm not mistaken. But they don't talk. And we won't say that, but yeah, they don't talk in the movie, which is kind of bullshit. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. The
right.
one person who could speak Russian in this movie doesn't talk.
Yep.
But I kind of didn't like it the first time I watched it. I haven't finished my second view through. I think I'm gonna like it my second, but it just felt kind of. It was like comic booky in a bad way. Like, the Marvel films usually do a really good job of being like comic booky, but in a good way. I was hoping for something on par with Winter Soldier, and I think this was more of an Iron Man 3. And I used to love Iron Man 3. But it's just, it's a self-contained story. There's a lot of stuff in here that's just like, oh, this is like, it just feels like you're borrowing things from other movies, and it doesn't feel good. Like, it feels like the least original Marvel movie we've had so far, which is weird because they're all kind of rehashes of like Iron Man 1 is the same as Doctor Strange, is the same as Ant-Man, like but I'm sure it'll make them lots of money, and I hope we get to see David Harbour again, and I hope we get to see Florence Pugh again, or Puff or Pug or what, I don't know how to say it. It's Pugh.
I think it's Pew.
Pew? Okay.
Puke.
That's
but
funny.
yeah.
This is great. I had a feeling we'd all have different opinions on all these movies, because I knew David liked Columbiana, and I knew I didn't like it. I'm with Hawk on this one. I don't know. I guess because I'm the one who usually gripes, so I'm glad Marcus kind of took over that this time, because I'm not going to talk about the thing that I normally talk about, but I really, on the opposite end of it, I really respect that the MCU is fairly consistent and very good at maintaining its sort of level of universe building, and so I didn't feel that this movie made a huge misstep. Obviously it takes place in the past, but it didn't fuck up something as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I thought, that's more Black Widow, but that's Black Widow as she was, I don't have really too much to add, but I thought it was okay. I definitely think there's a bit of a weird thing because of this whole COVID rollout, right? Because originally this movie was supposed to come out, and then it was supposed to be Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then I think Loki, and then WandaVision, but then they did it completely backwards. And WandaVision came out first, then Falcon, then Loki, and then this movie. And I think, unfortunately, something weird happened there. I with WandaVision goal, I mean, let's just look at it from a meta point of view. They needed to get people excited for the MCU again, right? That's the point of all these projects, right? Because, frankly, even I was a little burnt out after Far From Home. Game, okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm good. That was a good 10-year run. Had a good time. I'm fine, I'm curious about the next stuff, but I'm not that excited, right? And I thought WandaVision accomplished the thing that I didn't think they could, which was to really get people talking about it again, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what people were doing. They were talking about what's going on, right? And it started that excitement. And I didn't think they could pull it off, but they managed to do it with it. I was like, okay, all right, they seem to know what they're doing. And I mean, we can debate the other shows. I'm not caught up on Loki. But that's the thing. This movie was supposed to be first. And I guess I agree from the perspective that this probably might not have excited people as much, because I guess it is kind of more of what used to be the same. But I don't know, like where it's placed after Division for me, I think it's fine, you know? Like I don't know. I guess for some reason, like we all know where Black Widow ends up, so it's not really about her. But in terms of, to me, what all the TV shows have been doing is it's a changing of the guard, right? Because they need to replace all the heroes from before and create new heroes for the next run, right? So they needed to fill in Wanda and Vision and Falcon and Winter Soldier and Loki to be the mainstays of the next generation. So the function of this movie really strategically was to introduce Yelena. That's really the whole goal of it, and hopefully Red Guardian. Okay, I want to see more of him as well, but that's really the purpose of it, and I think they did a good job of introducing Yelena. So yeah, I thought the movie was fine. Like I wouldn't say it's one of the best movies, and I will agree, the moment when everybody's back together, the movie really slowed down. I thought all those conversations were good, but yeah, somewhere around there, just 1 hour 20 minutes in, that's where it really kind of like slowed down in pace. But for the most part, I was happy with the whole film. It was like a return to form for me. But that's the thing, right? Like I was already satisfied with WandaVision, and yeah, depending on what your expectations were, I understand where you're coming from, Marcus. I understand where you're coming from, David. Like I agree. Like yeah, it's not the best Marvel movie, but I don't think it's the worst either. But I actually really liked it.
I think it did suffer being released so late, because if it had come out before Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think we'd have had more hype for Falcon and Winter Soldier. Because there's a line in this film, and I don't think this is a huge spoiler. If you've seen Falcon and Winter Soldier, this is not a spoiler. When the Red Guardian is talking about fighting Captain America in the 80s, and somebody goes, Captain America was on ice in the 80s. Yeah. And he's like, are you calling me a liar? Which is so great, so funny. And then we would have gone, what? There's a Captain America in the 80s? Or is he alive? And then Falcon and Winter Soldier, we would have gone, oh my God. But instead we went, yeah, we know there's another Captain America. We already saw him in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
That got screwed up.
So big deal. And that's a huge letdown, I think, because that's a huge moment in this movie of just that little, like, look at that one little line, how big that blossoms later on.
Yeah.
And the post credits of introducing Valentina. Just saying Valentina. Okay, Valentina is going to be the new, we all know, she's the new Nick Fury. She's going to show up in every post-credit scene for everything from now on. And until she probably forms the Dark Avengers or whatever she's going to form, right? Like that's, we all kind of...
Fair enough. Yeah, there is.
Yeah, that's not a thing. It doesn't say anything else about the scene. It's just that, there's a post-credit. It'd be like if we were talking about Phase 1 and we're like, well, there's a Nick Fury cameo at the end. You'd be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Because we knew... when we saw Falcon and Winter Soldier, when she showed up, we had already heard rumors that she was in this movie.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That was fun. It doesn't.
So it's just like they just kind of blew their chance of these like holy shit, this kid, like what? And again, we would have been so hyped, and instead you watch the end of this movie and you go, basically, I guess. So you're not hyped anymore. This movie comes out and you're like, all right, what's the next thing? Because this is not.
But because like Steve, it's like I know you don't watch trailers, so you don't look up these spoilers, but you have to understand that the majority of the people who are watching all these things do. Like, so there's millions.
You're fools! Don't watch trailers.
But it doesn't matter because we crave more. We're hopped up. We're hopped up on our MCU drug. So. As the things are being available to us, we want to know more. We're reading spoilers. We're reading theories, crazy ass fan theories that we hope are true that are never fucking true, and then we're all disappointed. But like that's what this whole kind of thing is based on. So this movie, exactly like David said, like all these little things that would have been really fun, little nuggets before, are just kind of wasted on us, and because of that, I was really that's why I was disappointed with the the Taskmaster part of it at all, because I was hoping that was going to be something else, and it wasn't. So there's just all those little things that you were hoping for that just kind of fell flat. Not that they're bad, and it's, again, I don't think that this is a bad movie. I liked it. I enjoyed it, and I will watch it again. But with what I was hoping this movie was going to be, it just wasn't. And I feel like, again, if it was slated where it was supposed to be slated, I think it would have been a lot better.
Yeah. I think that's really what it is at the end of the day. I think you're right. I mean, I don't blame you for the hype. I mean, yeah, that's just been my policy since, I don't know, Doctor Strange, when I realized, you know what, they actually know what they're doing. I'm not going to watch the trailers anymore. And that's just been me, you know, like, I've been right, because I'm going to watch the MCU. I mean, I'm a fan of it, you know, so I don't need to watch the trailers. I'm going to go see it, so I don't need to know, you know, and that's just me. I get that. So, no, I totally agree. I totally see your point of view. I can totally see how this movie didn't just knock it out of the park like it kind of needed to, if you were like really hoping for a game changer. And because it is not a game changer. No. It's a decent MCU movie. I mean, personally, I don't think every MCU movie is great. I think they are they're formulaic and they're kind of cheesy, and I would never say they're fine art. I like them, and I'd say most of them are between mediocre and good, or even great.
I think the problem with this movie is that it was a little too fast and furious.
Oh God. Okay. Well,
little too. When you got family, right?
Oh,
like, Dom, that's a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Don't mean shit when you got family.
Oh God. All right. Let's bring it back to the original, Nikita to Natasha. So that's the major difference with this one, is she has a family. They all survive. I guess that's a bit of a
this really didn't dip too heavily into the Red Room origin for her, because I think they felt like they covered that in Age of Ultron, maybe.
I think in terms of whether this is connected to my whole like dumb thesis of Nikita to Natasha, I don't know.
I think it is. I think it is, because in the end, there's freedom and empowerment and finding yourself and stuff like that.
Yeah, there is a little element of people's lives being taken over, and they make it lives as opposed to just female, but it is still focused on what these girls are taken and turned into. I mean, that is an element of it, very much so. And so it's sort of funny to see the MCU version of it. And in the end, she also kind of has sort of a win. I mean, maybe it's not as direct as Anna's, but she manages to free a lot of people more than herself, which is win, you know, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would disagree on that. You know, I think the whole point of like Dreykov's daughter.
Oh,
that,
sure.
We got from the first Avengers movie, and that, you know, nobody really knew what that line meant. You know, Dreykov's daughter.
Yeah.
And how the fuck does Loki know that?
You know, when you think about it, that was
He's magical,
really,
whatever.
He's magic.
But like that turned out to be a huge, like, you know, dark piece of her personality in that. You know, she wanted out of you know, from like, you know, where she was in that, you know, and she, you know, basically she used a little girl in that to get to Dreykov and that on the
I'm glad they actually
shield.
delivered
that
on
was her out
of a throwaway line, you know, because it's better than like, shit, I'm so bad. Fucking Solo's Dice or his fucking name. But anyway, I don't know whether David and I should go into any of the other additional movies, because we've pretty good.
I would say, watch Hannah, watch Red Sparrow. I didn't care for Salt at all.
I liked Salt.
Me too.
I think it would have been a bad Tom Cruise movie, and I think it's a boring Angelina Jolie movie.
There's a weird little detail of Salt. If you ever watch it,
I think it was a Mission Impossible movie, actually, because the Mission Impossible 5 or whatever was very similar to this plot, actually, with a nuke. Yeah.
It's one of those things, if you ever do see Salt, remember that this was originally meant to be a Tom Cruise project, and they converted it to Angelina. No, you know what? I really liked Angelina. I thought she did a fantastic job, and I can't really see how that movie could have been any other way. I will say real quick about Red Sparrow. It is the darkest
of all
the movies we've been talking about. Yeah. It kind of takes the concept of objectification and powerlessness of a woman to the nth degree. Like, it goes where the other movies hint at but don't actually go, and that may not be appealing to you, but it is a beautifully shot movie. I actually had a kind of a negative opinion of it going into this whole project because I'd seen it before. But I have to say, rewatching it, it holds up. It is a good movie, but it's heavier than anything else on the list. So that's my opinion. Marcus Hawk, have you seen Salt? Yeah, you guys have seen Salt,
I
right?
saw
What did
Salt,
you guys
yeah.
think of it?
Oh yeah.
It's all solid. I haven't seen Red Sparrow yet. I actually started it the one day and I was on TV. I was like, oh, I've never seen this before, and then I got distracted in that. But it's really starting to get good in that. Like the whole thing with like how she had to leave the ballet.
So brutal.
Jesus.
Yeah, and then Marcus, have you seen Red Sparrow or?
I haven't seen Red Sparrow. I saw Salt. Haven't seen Red Sparrow. I liked Salt. I thought it was a good movie. It's not it's not an amazing artistic, crazy cool film or anything. It's just a good movie.
Yeah,
That's not artistic.
it was a fun watch.
Just action, fun. I liked it. But yeah, no, I haven't seen Red Sparrow. It's something I think I probably will watch at some point. But yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
You guys, I like it because it's super dark. Like I love that stuff.
It's dark.
Like I love.
dark.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love it. It's so good.
I guess I'm in a weird place right now because I had seen it and I had to start it like 3 times because I was just like, oh, I already know what's gonna happen. I was like, but when I got through it, it was okay.
You know what's nice about Red Sparrow? The accents are consistent.
Oh,
Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence delivers an amazing performance, and the movie is really smart. It's not as twisty as some of the other stuff, not as convoluted as some of the other stuff, and it's got such a satisfying ending. Holy cow, she fucks those guys so bad. So it's good, but
it's dark. It's very
harsh.
dark.
Yeah. And the last one was Hannah. Now I haven't seen the television series. I had not seen the movie, and I have to say, after watching all these movies back to back, because Hannah was my last one just before Black Widow, I really appreciated that it was very simple and maybe more style over substance. But I was kind of sick of all the twists and turns and style. I mean, of all the other movies, and I like how do you pronounce her name? Saoirse
Ronan.
Yeah, she's great.
She's Irish. Swarzy, I believe.
I can't pronounce it. Kate Blanchett and Eric Bana are really good. And yeah, it's a really visually interesting movie, but it's not a movie that is as deep or as foundational as any of the other movies. It's sort of the lightest in a way of all. But I enjoyed it. I guess because I was a little bit sick of all the spy crap after.
It's more in line with like a Bourne movie, I think, than these. But like those movies are all good, right? Like all the Bourne movies are good. Hannah's really good. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. Watch. It's a lot of these movies are like, well, Anna especially and that movie are both very like just watch a chick beat the fuck out of a bunch of bad guys, which is just fun.
Yeah, that's right. That was so my original project name was what was it? From Nikita to Natasha, and then it kind of changed into what was it? Girls Wrecking the Man or something? Oh yeah, a whole lot of girls wrecking the man.
Yeah.
Hannah fits under that. Yeah.
Like that, but we can do a different thing because that could do like Alien and stuff like that.
Yeah. Hawk, what was it?
Oh, it's pronounced Saoirse.
Yeah.
Saoirse? Oh, my bad. Okay. Saoirse.
So if there's one thing I've learned,
I had to look it up.
there's one thing I've learned out of all this is do not date mysterious women whose names end in an A. That is generally the rule. That is consistent across all the films we talked about, except for Point of No Return. But fuck that movie because it's an American remake. But yes, let's go through it. You have Nikita.
Well, her name was Claudia.
That wasn't
In
her
the
real
movie.
name though. Her real name was Maggie. So
Right.
yeah, I mean she went by Claudia. I mean, if you want to make that rule, but let me go through it. So it was Nikita for La Femme Nikita, then Maggie or Claudia in Point of No Return, and then what are we after that? Columbiana. Her name was Catalea.
Catalea.
3 A's in it. I mean, holy crap. I mean, you're just asking for it at that point.
And then
Red
Anna.
Sparrow's name was Dominika Ergova. Anna is just Anna. I can't remember her last name. And actually, Evelyn Salt's real name was Natasha Chenkov. So Natasha again. And Hannah, of course, has 2 A's. And then, of course, Natasha or Natalia, depending on which version you want to go by, Romanov. If you ever have a girlfriend whose first name ends in an A and she doesn't tell you what she does during the day, just be careful. Worst case scenario, You'll have skin stripped off of you, and your whole family might be dead. Best case scenario, should just leave you hanging. So, on that note, check out our socials. I don't remember them. And thanks for joining us for this very fun Secret Agent podcast. If you have any suggestions for movies that involve girlfriends who have the last name A, who will leave you hanging or possibly killed, definitely send them in.
Who take mysterious phone calls in the middle of the night?
Yeah, just sort of answers and their whole face changes. Just that's a sign. Send them in, because man, I've watched 8 of these and I could you know what, I can't do anymore. I'm really looking forward to changing my track at this point. But hey, send them in anyway. I'll check them out eventually. I'll find a reason.
There is a Chinese version of Nikita that I haven't watched yet that I do want to watch.
I will comment on that. I was very careful in how I constructed this maddening marathon, and I'm gonna have to take it easy from now on, because this was a hard one, I have to admit. But
was this harder than Black Mirror, though, guys?
You guys were nice with those ones. The ones you suggested,
yeah, but you guys were really not happy about Black Mirror.
I had a bad time with that, definitely, because I'm not in a great place. So those, it's really funny, the positive Black Mirror episodes, you guys, I'm just like, these are not fucking positive. It's still an existential nightmare. You guys are terrible.
I'm sorry, I'm just always a dungeon master. I just got to torture everybody all the time.
You're bad. You're a bad man.
Yeah, I know.
I specifically took the Asian one out because I knew there was. I think it's called Black Cat, which is the Hong Kong version of La Femme Nikita. I actually never saw that movie, but at some point, somewhere down the road, I'm gonna make some sort of Asian assassin revenge, because that is a whole separate genre, guys. I mean, there's a Korean one, and there's Japanese ones, and there's Hong Kong ones, because that's all we do in Hong Kong is we just have revenge. Okay, like that's Thursday. Okay, so that's a good point that you brought up. I purposely didn't do the Asian one, but yeah, at some point, feel free. Everybody, send more movies to torture us. We love it. And thank you, David, Hawk, and Marcus, for joining me on this journey. And have a great evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Cheers. Awesome.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that's it for us this week on Geeks with Kids. If you want to get a hold of us, you can send us an email at podcast@geekswithkids.ca. And don't forget to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/geekswithkids. Follow us on Twitter at geekswithkidscn. Check out our pics on Instagram at geekswithkids. And you can find all of this good stuff on our website at www.geekswithkids.ca. So if you like what you hear, why don't you hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment. This podcast can be found on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, and your favorite podcasting app. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.